Hey y'all, it's me again. I am back. Was on a little hiatus, just, busy with college and everything, and I just, just attending to stuff, doing stuff back at home with my parents, and, just haven't had the time to upload. But I'm back. I have not lost my passion. Not really much of a passion. My passion, I would say, just like more of a passion. Every philosopher just wants his ideas to be heard. Let's see if I can open the brightness in here a little. It's a little dark. Okay. So, what am I talking about today? Well, some of you may have watched my old video. By the way, I'm just trying to do this to get more engagement. But, if you actually enjoy these videos, like and subscribe. I really think that I put out helpful content for the few of you that I am talking to, actually. And, it's just share it with other people. See if other people agree with what I have to say. And if not, tell me what you think in the comments. Anyways, back to the video. So I made a video a while ago, if any of you actually watch my channel, about NPCs, almost, and like, we all know the memes, the Aidens, Jadens, and Bradens, the Tylers and Brylers of the world, right? And I made this video either like before college started, last semester, or like right at the start. The point is that I made the video before I discovered this. Plato's Republic is the book that we read. Well, I mean, it's a Plato reader, but it has his Republic in there. It is one of the books that we read for my philosophy class, and it was very interesting what I found, specifically Plato's Republic. So kind of just going to dive right into it, You may have heard of the allegory of the cave before, and I had heard of it too, but I never knew like the full thing. I only thought it was an allegory about, just people being trapped in a cave and only knowing their world by the shadows cast on the wall. And to just give a quick rundown of what the allegory is, for those who may not know, basically imagine that you have people that from birth have been living in a cave. They are chained to the wall. They're chained facing the wall. They cannot move their heads left or right to see anybody to their left or right. They don't know how to talk. Their only experience ever of the world, is, imagine there is a walkway running through the cave, right? So the prisoners are, if this is the cave, prisoners are on the left and the right. And there's like a walkway going through the cave, and there's also a, like, I don't know, say like a flame or something that illuminates the walkway. And the only experiences they have of the world are people with objects, holding objects, and they walk through that walkway. And the only experience they have is they see the object's shadows on the wall. And they hear the people talking. So they assume, of course, that those objects are the things talking. Because, I mean, now it sounds silly to us, but we're assuming these are people that have grown up there. And, they never knew anything different. So all they've seen are those shadows. So that's pretty much it. That's the allegory of the cave, right? To go into a little more after what happens about that, Plato posits, what if there was one person that was able to somehow escape the cave? They went outside to the entrance of the cave, and they were able to escape that fake world, and they were able to see the form, the ultimate form of the good, basically, is the sun, right? But what happens when you come out of a movie theater? It's been dark for so long, and you come out into the daylight, and your eyes are going to hurt, right? Because it's very bright. So Plato, of course, admits that someone that's lived in this cave for years on end, decades on end probably, is going to have a very hard time adjusting to the light outside. So their eyes are going to hurt. But over time, they will be able to accustom to it, and they will be able to, handle the light of the ultimate good, the form of the ultimate good, and be able to grasp it. And one more important point that I want to go over is that if the person tried to go back in the cave, what happens when you go back into the dark after you've been in the light? You're going to be confused. You're not going to be able to see as well, right? Your eyes won't be adjusted to the dark. Now the person that's been out of the cave that has seen the real stuff. They saw the real stuff. They no longer see the shadows. They know what it looks like. They're not going to be able to recognize the shadows anymore. They're only going to be able to recognize the real objects. And the people that are inside the cave are going to be making fun of them because now they can't even recognize the shadows. But here's so kind of just go all through this. Remember that it's important to keep in mind for later, right? That the people make fun of him because now he cannot recognize the shadows, but they are really good at recognizing the shadows. So what does this mean for us, right? What Plato is trying to relay in the whole Republic. This is just like book 8 or 6 of the Republic, I want to say. It's 8. Yeah, I think it's 8. So 8 of the Republic. The whole Republic is basically about, what is justice, and he does it by hypothetically in his mind building a just city. But the part that I want to talk about is his emphasis on the philosopher and the philosopher's traits. And this is super interesting because I had never, I'd heard about, everybody's heard about the allegory of the cave, right? But I've never read the Republic before, heard much more of Plato besides that. But if you watch my NPC video, what I say is almost very similar to what Plato describes, right? That there's only very few people that have the traits of a philosopher. The traits of a philosopher are they have a good character, like a noble character. They have an affinity for truth, so they're not a liar. They're not someone who lies. They have a good memory. They can learn stuff because, if your memory is so bad that you can never forget what you learn, how can you be a philosopher? A philosopher is someone who has a love of wisdom. If you can't hold on to that wisdom, how can you love it? And someone who has quick learning, who is able to learn very easily, right? Because philosophy is a very hard undertaking, right? It's no joke. Some of the stuff you have to wrap your head around. So if you're not able to learn stuff quickly, you're gonna get lost in the sauce. And I would argue that I have all the philosopher's traits. No ego, but that's just kind of how it is, right? And it's a very few amount of people that have this. I just saw another video that metacognition has been evaluated by neuroscientists to be the highest form of intelligence, right? That very few people have metacognition. If you think about it, metacognition is almost just like another name for philosophy, right? It's thinking about your own thinking. That's literally philosophy. So this is something that has to be recognized, right? It's like, and just the fact that I was able to think of this, obviously using a different terminology because I'm 2,400 something years after Plato, but just it's honestly just quite fascinating that I was able to sort of come up with this. And what Plato says essentially is that there is sort of a eternal, universal a stream of knowledge that flows in through the philosophers, and that's kind of why we develop similar ideas, right? I think Alex O'Connor put it he put it pretty eloquently, right? He was like, philosophy is different from the other sciences, where other sciences, you progress after each generation, right? You keep progressing. You keep going forward. First generation learns this, second generation knows that and builds off of that, so on and so on. But philosophy is almost, it's unique in the way where each person of philosophy, yeah, you can read old philosophers, but you have to learn for yourself, right? You have to learn philosophy for yourself. Because if you're just, at the end of the day, if you're just, reading old philosophers and you're just trying to quote them, trying to sound smart, you're not actually a philosopher. It's like Rene Descartes said in his method, the people that just kind of cling onto the trees of old philosophers and never grow past the trees, right? You have to shoot past the trees. You have to use those as stepping stones and go up. So I think it's just really interesting that I was able to come up with that kind of on my own, and then later I read Plato's Republic and I was like, wow, this is actually just exactly what I described in my video, right? So to kind of update that video with Platonic terminology, just basically like the point is, he even talks about this in book 3 of the Republic, the noble lie, right? And you can tell if you're a philosopher I mean, if you are, you will know you're one. If you're not, you might try to tell yourself that you're one, but you're absolutely not. If you're concerned with money, definitely not. You know, if you're concerned with likes on social media, wealth, definitely not. You know, there's just a few things that we can cross off infinitely. And it's important to know that it's not something that you can train to be. Philosophers are just naturally born, and they can, you know, it's not something that you can become, right? You can learn memory tactics, but you can't give yourself a good memory. You can, you know, you can, if you're a natural born liar, it's going to be really hard to break that. I mean, I think the hardest one is like, if you're not a good learner, you can't really make yourself a better learner, right? So it's just really hard to do this. But the point that Plato makes is that, the point that I'll make is that not everyone needs to be or even has to be a philosopher. I actually wrote my philosophy final paper on this, right? That not everyone is a philosopher. And, I mean, no one cares, to be honest. Like, no one cares about philosophy in this day. So no one has a desiring to be a philosopher. But, in a way, right? Like, you kind of just need to accept your role of what you are. And not fight against that, right? Like, you can obviously achieve a lot if you set your mind to it, but you also should recognize that you're born with naturally given talents. I mean, this is even biblical, you know, the parable of the talents. You know, Jesus gives people different talents, and it's better for them to work with what they have rather than covet what the other man has. So, this is not to suggest in any way that, like, someone is lesser than. Everyone is equal, of course, as we are all humans with human dignity. But, like, as the way that I put it in my philosophy final paper, a taxi should not keep on a snowplow attachment to the front at all times trying to be a snowplow. A taxi should just do what it's going to do best, be a taxi, and it should not try to be a snowplow. There are snowplows, and that's their job. In that analogy, of course, the snowplow is the philosopher, and the taxi is the non-philosopher. So I just think it's interesting. All right, so now the rest of this video is kind of be for the philosophers, right? It's just, you know, the point that Plato brings up is that that I want to touch on is the people that will make fun of you when you can no longer identify the shadows. When you are a philosopher, and you know, being a philosopher doesn't necessarily mean, oh, I've read a bunch of great philosophy books. It's someone could be a philosopher, but no one's ever engaged them philosophically, so they haven't discovered it. But like any philosopher, I think that I would know when I met someone if they were a philosopher, even if they never expressed interest in it before, but just from their demeanor, I could figure out pretty quickly, right? And I've met maybe one or two people. It's a rare thing, I would say. Um, so, but it's important to recognize that people will sort of laugh at you, because when you are a philosopher, ultimately, you're dealing with matters of the mind, matters of the universe, matters of meaning and life, and you're grappling with these very important topics. That simple stuff like money, the freaking latest clothes, latest fashions, the latest trends. And this is gonna sound very cliche, but it just kind of, you're like, what the hell is this? Like, this is so small and insignificant. It's so dumb. I mean, it's just like so, like, it's like a speck. Like, really, like, trends and stuff, like, to what appeal to other people. Like, what is this? This is the life of honor. So, life of contemplation is the highest, and to sort of like a, you know, Thomistic Thomas Aquinas thing, right? The life of contemplation is that which most closely resembles union with God, and therefore is the highest life. But that's for another video. So, I mean, I just kind of want to talk about this, right? We all know that the non-philosophers are kind of out there, and it's just like, if you've never met another philosopher, but you've always felt this way, that you've always, you know, been deeper than everybody else, right? You've kind of like you hold disdain whenever someone mentions something so small and trivial. You're like, how can you even think about this? You know, like how can you even be worried that, I don't know, freaking uh, Jalen and Shaquana broke up, you know, in like the news, in the celebrity news. Like celebrity news is, don't even get me started, right? It's just complete and utter like whatever. But anyways, yeah, highly recommend. If I've heard that it's not a good book, Plato's not good for philosophy beginners. I completely disagree. I thought his, let's see, I thought his like apology and his not the youth, is it the Euthyphro? Yeah, the Euthyphro was very good. The Euthyphro and the Apology, I thought those were wonderful books. So I highly recommend it. If you want to get into philosophy and you think you may be a philosopher. The Republic, of course, it's just a longer undertaking. That's why I didn't suggest it. But if you are someone that likes to read, and reading a long book is not necessarily turn you off to the idea, then the Republic is also a good place to look at. But anyways, I just wanted to share my thoughts about that. The thoughts in the Republic. Um, how amazing it is that I'm a philosopher. No, no bragging though or anything, guys. You know, just like it's just really cool. You know, I just think it is that I came with it. If you like the video, like and subscribe, and peace out. You know, if you have any suggestions about what you want me to read, a review, or talk about next, just let me know.